My name is Lester Edison Rollins. I was born in 1925.
1925. And what did you say your middle name was?
Edison, Edison.
Edison.
Yes.
Okay. 1925. And my mother, who is your sister, you are her oldest brother or eldest brother. Orville Rollins Gibson was your, she was the third child of your parents, the third living child.
Fourth, eh?
Third or fourth, yes, okay. Okay.
There was Lester, Max, all four.
Right, okay. So what was the month and date of your birth?
It's of November the 30th, 1925.
And I always remember that because my sister was also born on November 30th, many, many, many years later in 1959. So your parents, who were they, please?
My father was Hastings Rollins. My mother was Loy Louise.
Hastings Harold. You know, I only learned just recently from Cheryl that his first name was Hastings because I never heard anybody refer to him anything else but Harold because that's what Grammy called him. So I always thought Harold was his first name. Everybody seemed to know except me that his first name was actually Hastings. So I learned something by doing these videos. So he was Hastings Harold Rollins and Grammy was Floyd Louise Rollins, your parents. Where was Grandpa from? Where was your father from?
My father was from Bimini.
Okay.
My mother was from Elutra. She was born in Elutra, but she grew up in Nassau.
Okay. Had you ever gone to Bimini at any point?
When I was small, I don't remember the exact age, maybe about 10 or 12.
Okay, my mother thinks that it was in 1935. We found some writing that she had done. And she thinks it was around 1935. So
more about it.
So you were less than 10 years old then?
Could
Probably,
be.
yeah. Do you remember the trip at all?
Yes, I remember we used to go down the beach and sometimes you could almost put your hand on and grab the broad shores of the water.
Wow.
I used to come in near the shore.
I understand a hurricane happened while you all were there.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember what exactly happened?
I remember the hurricane because a man somewhere got in the yard or somewhere in the area and he fell in one of the cesspits that came out his hole and was floating.
Oh, wow.
And this man's cesspit.
So did he live?
Yeah, he lived.
Okay. Do you know if anybody died during that hurricane?
I don't recall really now.
Okay.
But one or two people might have died.
So, Uncle Lester, I did not calculate the numbers, but how old are you now?
I am only 96.
That is just amazing. Unbelievable. When I called you last week to ask you if you would be kind enough to do this interview, you said yes. And I thought sure that when I called you today, you would ask me what interview. But instead, you called me. I was flabbergasted. I am 61 years old and I could barely remember what happened yesterday. So what do you attribute this amazing memory and status of your age to?
Well, I don't know. The goodness of the Lord, I guess, but a lot of things I don't remember. Sometimes I put down something in the house right now, and I don't forget where I put it.
But Uncle Lester, that happened to me every day. So I don't know if it got anything to do with age, and the goodness of the Lord, I mean, I think he's been good to all of us, but boy, some of y'all seem to get some extra blessings. So I'm wondering, is it something that you did? Is it genetic? Is it what? You think it was diet, exercise?
I really don't know. People always ask me, say, well, what you doing? Why you're like you are, but I don't know. I try to eat right.
Are you a vegetarian?
Not strictly. I eat a little fish now and then.
Okay.
But I eat mostly veggie meat. I think that's a bad thing to eat too much of because of its salt content.
Right, yeah.
Because I noticed that some of the conference workers who used to eat a lot of veggie meat, quite a few of them have died, and I wonder if it's because of eating this salty kind of food that's kind of caused them to crop out.
Well, I guess the reality is depending on how old they were.
Yeah,
Doctor.
but as old as I am.
Okay, but Dr. Alec did a talk yesterday, and the topic of the talk was vegans die too. So I suppose we could attribute a lot of things to people dying early, and then there are times where we may be right, and sometimes it was just, not meant to be for them to live any longer. But we can do all that we can, and we should, to live healthy. But Uncle Lester, getting back to your younger days now, where did you grow up? Where did you start off? Where was your first home?
My first home was in Chippenham,
Mm-hmm.
1929. I was 4 years old, and I remember playing in the yard, saying I'm doing baking, taking the ashes and molding it into something looking like loaves of bread.
Wow.
And my brother Max used to be somewhere around the place.
Okay, so Chippenham was your first days, and you do have memories of that house. Do you
Yeah,
remember what the
yeah.
house looked like?
The house was a kind of square house, flat roof. I guess my father had planned to go up second floor, which he never did.
Mm-hmm.
But the 1929 hurricane came,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember my dad taking me on his shoulder and walking through the yard, going to the Granges.
Okay.
Now, why he was leaving our house, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I could hear the rattle of the corrugated metals around the Granges garage, and the days to bake bread.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to the house, there was quite a few neighbors inside their house as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff piled up, I guess, to make space for us. And I recall going in the house, but eventually I believe I went to sleep, and that was it.
Okay.
I didn't remember until the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually we moved to Hospital Lane.
Do you remember the color of the house in Chippenham?
It's kind of white. It wasn't painted any special color.
Do you remember where? You think you could find where that house was now today?
But if I could find where Reverend Sanders is,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the house was, because he bought the lot.
Reverend Talmadge Sands.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I would love to know exactly where it was. I'm sure the building is gone now, I assume.
No, it's still there.
Wow. We're going to go look for that right after we leave here. Okay, so after you moved so who all moved to Hospital Lane? You and Uncle Max and Grammy and Mummy?
And Daddy is all I know.
You.
Okay, so everybody was born except on Rosie then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize y'all stayed in Chippenham that long. So they were fairly, big enough to know what was going on when they moved. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, so the house in Hospital Lane, was that a house that was built by who?
The house in Hospital Lane, my dad built that house. When we moved there were two row houses in the garden toward the back.
Mm-hmm.
The first one you would meet was where great-grandma and grandma lived.
Mm-hmm.
That's a two-room dwelling.
Okay.
But there was a big bed inside the first room.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bed in the second room. My great-grandmother used to sleep in the front section, and I don't recall exactly who used the second room, but I remember when Marge used to have children, she used to be in the second room.
Okay.
Now, across from that house was the kitchen.
Yeah.
That was a two-room building,
Separate.
and that had, I guess you call it a baker, built out of brick.
Mm-hmm.
It was oval shaped,
Mm-hmm.
and you had a door to close. And Grandma used to make the bread and put them on something she had to slide the loaves in, and 4 or 5 pans would be in there. And when she think the bread was brown enough, she'd push this thing in and pull the bread out. And that would be
Oh.
some nice bread.
Wow.
That was the kitchen.
I could taste that now.
Yeah, that was the kitchen there at the store. And
So the kitchen was a separate room, a separate building altogether.
yes, And
Okay.
in the kitchen there was another room.
Okay.
And in that room is where we went when we came from Hospital Lane. Because there's no other house for us to live in.
Mm-hmm. So the house that you ended up in Hospital Inn wasn't built when you moved there?
No,
Oh,
He built it while they were
okay.
living
So you
there.
lived in this room next to the kitchen?
Yeah.
Initially.
but
And that was just one room?
yeah, it's one room.
All of y'all was in one room?
Yeah,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
it had a couple of beds in it, different beds in it.
There were children, you know.
That's interesting. Okay, so do you remember if you were in school yet at that point?
I don't recall when I went to school.
I understand Grammy allowed everybody to go when they were 7.
Yeah, round about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, my mother always had it in her mind that we would not attend the government school.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Aunt Marge, she allowed her children to go to government school
Okay.
because some of them went to Western Senior.
Okay.
But we had to go all the way up to Hawkins Hills to the Adventist school, and then we taught the children. That school wasn't as instructive as the government school.
At least not in academics.
Yeah, not
it was
in
probably
academics.
instructive in Bible,
In Bible,
Seventh-day Adventism, right? Do you remember much about the school itself? Like who were the instructors or the people you went there with?
Yes, I remember when there were 2 brothers there, 2 Reeds from Jamaica. I don't remember the name of the one who was acting as mission president, because at that time the church was a mission. And there was David Reed and his brother. David was a teacher and his brother was a pastor. So I believe the pastor was head of the mission office.
Okay.
Then after a while they left. But you know the funny thing about school, when school lunch session would come, the teacher would lock the schoolroom up and all the students would be outside. Some would be roaming through the bushes and getting a mischief sometimes.
So at lunchtime the school was locked?
Yeah, because he went back home for lunch.
Oh.
He lived somewhere down over the hill near the Civilians. And so they were close to school and we'd be left on our own. I said, well,
So about how many children you think went to that school?
I don't know, 25, man.
So you all were instructed in one room or were you separated?
There was one big room
Uh-huh.
and we were divided into classes.
Okay, so they taught according to grades in that
Yeah.
one room.
I don't recall how many teachers we had, but I know we had David Reed was the principal at one time. And he might have had assistants to teach in the other grades.
So,
And
go ahead.
when they left, then Miss Zoe Lawrence came, and she was the head teacher.
Okay. So, when you say they roamed through the bush and got in trouble, what kind of trouble did the young people get in back in those days? I thought they were all saints.
But one time, okay, I just come to mind, got a young lady pregnant.
Oh, wow.
They were in some serious trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember the names of some of your schoolmates?
I remember Joyce Salter.
Yeah.
Her father was a teacher, and he became the mischievous, and that's why Joyce came along.
Okay.
And finally, after he went back to the States, he sent for his daughter,
Okay.
had her finish school over there, and she got married. And several years later, she came back to Nassau, and I saw her. Because I had a little crush on her one time.
I heard my mother talk about this Joyce Salter, but I never really knew anything about her.
Yeah.
So did she stay in Nassau when she came?
When she came back from from school. She came on a visit.
Oh, okay.
By that time, she was married.
Okay. So she ended up living and moving to the
So,
States.
yeah, so she died. I understand
She
she
died recently.
Oh.
Yeah, she recently died.
Oh, she is. Yeah.
Okay, so you remember any other names? What about the Bow kids?
Who?
The Bows?
No, I don't recall
Harry-
them being
Harry
supposed.
Bowen.
Another name I remember, Lowe's Pharmacy. Mr. Lowe used to come to our school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Billy Lowe?
Billy
William
Lowe.
Lowe?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's the connection. So he did come to that school as well.
He came there, yes. And Clavel Collins and Boyle Collins. They may be deceased now, but they came to our school.
So they were they Seventh Day Adventists?
No, they weren't Adventists.
Okay.
They were Conky Joe.
Okay, so they just came because it was available private
I
school
guess,
for
yeah.
students, right? Interesting. So, when you think about Hospital Lane and some of the things that would have happened there, can you think of when you think of your siblings? Can you give me a little information from your perspective about each one of them? Like, what were their personalities like? You know, what would you say about Uncle Huey, Orville, my mother, Uncle Max? What was there anything that stood out about each one of them?
But one thing I remember, I never used to, Hugh and I never got in any arguments. But Max and I always got in arguments. Because, see, he was kind of a glamour boy. And Sundays he'd want to go out. And sometimes he wouldn't have his shirts washed and clean. But I used to always be washing and ironing and cleaning my shirts. And he wanted to come to me to borrow one of my shirts. And I tell him, no way.
Max never washed.
And that was a big issue with him. He thought it was mean of me not to allow him on his shirts to go out. And guess what? He only began for these glamour girls.
Interesting.
And I would forget the girl who he was friendly with.
Okay, yes, that's interesting. So, what would you say about Mommy? What was her personality like? That's Orville Rollins.
My mother,
My mother.
your mother. Well,
You can't say nothing bad because I sitting here. No, but you could be honest.
we never had anything, Everything was cool. We never had any arguments.
You know, I always saw her as being a serious-minded, kind of
Yeah, I thought
very focused and determined person. Is that correct? Or what would you say about
Well,
her?
like I tell you one thing, there was a girl who was aunt, I think, and she were nurses together in the hospital. And this girl used to come around Hospital Lane to Aunt Rebecca, to Ivy, and you remember the other sisters, Rosie? Elaine and those.
And Cora.
And being kind of friendly, and men always say, you better watch out for my brother, because he ain't serious.
So she messed you right up. So, Lord, so Mommy said that about you, that you weren't serious. I could see her saying that about Uncle Max.
Yeah. Yeah, because maybe she has changing great fast too fast. But that was all.
Okay. So what about Uncle Huey? He was the younger one at the time.
Yeah, we never got in any argument. Up to today.
So, and Aunt Rosie, she was the younger one.
I never had anything with any, I can tell you, I remember we used to go to church. I had a bicycle,
He used to ride.
and I used to put Rosie on the crossbar. I had a piece of board,
Crossbar, yeah.
yeah, for her to sit on, because the bar, is not too nice to sit on
I
long.
remember that.
And so I rested a piece of board then. She used to sit on and I used to ride at the church.
Uncle Lester, what do you remember about Aunt Ruthie the most?
Not much. See, that time you have blankets in Jamaica, I lose a lot of things.
So was she was still in Nassau while you were in Jamaica though, right?
I don't know. I left her in that.
Okay. But when you came back, she was gone?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there was not much
was in
that
New
you
York.
remember. She was in New York. So she lived in New York for a long time?
Not too
That I
long.
don't know.
Let me think. 59. Probably she left New York about 58. Because we went into Miami 59, and that same year mother flew with Kirk to San Francisco to take him to his mother. And she was expecting Cheryl.
Now, I understand you were very good with your hands and you knew how to make radios or something?
Yes.
I found out from somewhere that if I had a coil of wire fixed in a sleeping bag and got a razor blade and a pin, that I could pick up that and this.
Wow.
And so I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
That worked as a crystal. And so I did with some earphones. Here, pick up that and this. I don't know if I can do it now.
Oh, wow. So my Aunt Rosie remembered that
I
you
wanted to study radio, but I never did.
So when you studied, what did you study?
Okay. After I left school and started to work at the Book and Bible House, which is operated now by H.G. Colvin, I started going to night school. No, evening class. But the man who wrote the song for the Bahamas,
Oh, Timothy Gibson?
Timothy Gibson.
Gibson.
Timothy Gibson was a school teacher, and he used to teach a school in Hospital Lane next to
So Fred Allen.
Fred Allen Shaw. And after school, I found out he was teaching bookkeeping. There were two other girls. I see her face now, I don't remember the name. And so there were three of us in the class. And so I started to take bookkeeping with him. Then finally, I went to Miss Mortimer, just across the road from the school, and I took typing.
Okay.
And so after the Coleman noticed that I was interested in doing penny school, he asked me if I would like to go to Jamaica to school. Now, I had not been studying or looking at the syllabus or anything of the kind to know what I was going to get into. But he said, you have to go down there by December because the registration will start. I had no money, not for school. I just had begun to save some money. I don't know if I had 30 pounds, but I had enough to buy my ticket on BOAC. And when I went to school, I might have had about, I don't know if I had 20 pounds in my pocket.
Wow.
Because I didn't have any money to go down, even to say, well, here I'm to school, this is my deposit. But then the Coleman told me, say, go on down. And he will arrange for me to work in the print shop. The print shop was the highest paying place on the campus. So I went down,
What was the name of the school?
West Indies College, and in Mandeville, Jamaica. And I started up with Elder McKinney. Oh, was it McKinney? No, yeah, McKinney.
Silas
And
McKinney.
Silas McKinney and Elder Scavallo now.
Neville Scoville.
Neville Scavallo, and the three of us. But they finished before me now. I know the times money got tight for them too, where they got their money from. But unfortunately, I was dumb and ignorant. I didn't even write back home and tell Mother I reached. I didn't even think I told the Colburns anything.
Okay.
But they came down there and saw me one time, must be just before they were leaving. And after I came home, I made a purpose to call them and thank them for what they had done for me.
Excellent. So how long were you away?
10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
But I never thought that I wanted to stay down there forever.
Mm-hmm.
But Mother said she thought I wasn't coming home anymore.
They must have really missed you all that time, because it wasn't like you could just pick up the phone and talk to someone like we can today. It must have felt as if you just was gone and didn't exist.
We wrote a lot of letters.
Really? So you all wrote him? Yeah, the letter days. I remember the days, because even I was in the letter days, but nobody writes letters anymore. You could just turn on your phone and just talk to them and see them at the same time immediately. Imagine that. So did you miss home a lot?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But one thing I remember in my mind, my mother said, if you want to stay there and make it, you'll make it anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. So on that premise, I thought, well, let's stick with it. Mm-hmm. So I had to drop out classes twice. That's because the delay, you see. Mm-hmm. When you once break a class session, you got to wait till next year.
Okay. And start all over again. Mm-hmm. So that took some time. But anyway, you did end it all, and you did come back home.
Yeah.
So, with regards to Hospital Lane, there was a place above where you live called the Villa Doyle. Do you remember that palatial home?
I remember the water came out of it.
Mm-hmm. It's actually referred to as the Villa Doyle.
Oh yeah, I remember that because I know when some water came out, our parties, and our big giant band playing and everything.
So you all were able to see and hear everything?
Yeah, when you get drunk, you see him come out of the porch making all kind of noise and carry.
Mm-hmm. Were you all ever allowed to go in that yard?
We never went over there, no.
No. Did you ever talk to him?
No.
No. But you just observed what was going on?
We used to talk to his butler, I think. Mm-hmm. There was a man from Jamaica was living there.
Yeah.
And he had about as big as this yard or bigger, this area. Mm-hmm. He used to keep his turkeys there. And when they went out, a turkey, feed him with a lot of grits. Mm-hmm. And they used to fatten them up.
Okay. Interesting.
And the man used to have some nice big pudding and whatnot sometimes. Mm-hmm. I used to climb from the tree and look out the wall, and he'd see me, and he'd come and bring me something to eat.
That's nice. I always was interested to know what kind of impact, being so close to that place did, and whether there was any history that maybe would be interesting, for the average person. Of course, we do have history recorded regarding that house and persons that would have lived there. But it was really very close to where you lived, because I went up there the other day to buy a book, and when I looked down, I was like, but wait a minute, it's right there, you could see and hear everything. So I was in fact, I did a video called Just Below the Villa Doyle and talked about Hospital Lane and your lives there, just the little that I know. Can you tell me much about your grandmother?
One thing I can remember, I see her now, she used to like to read a lot.
What was her name?
Yeah, her name was Evangeline.
Evangeline
Is
was...
that right, Rosie?
Louise, Evangeline, Louise.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Antonio.
So that she would have been, your grandmother.
Yeah.
So she used to read a lot. What did she like reading?
She used to like to read Ellen G. White's books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she didn't have any of her own. Mm-hmm. But my dad, he had a bookcase built in the wall. See, flush with the wall,
right.
But and seated in the back, there was a compartment. Mm-hmm. They could open the screen doors and put the books in there. And so she would come and sit on the floor.
Sofa,
take
right. Sofa right underneath.
Yeah, she'd come and take out a book and sit down on the door, and she'd read to her heart's content. Mm-hmm. Then she'd finish, she'd put it back up.
Interesting.
She'd like to talk a lot about Sister White.
She was a Seventh-day Adventist.
She was a Seventh-day Adventist.
Was she born a Seventh-day Adventist?
She was one of the first.
No, I wouldn't say she was born. She was Baptist, I think, first.
Her mother was a Baptist, but she became an Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
What was her mother's name?
Eva?
No,
Yes.
Mamie.
Huh?
Mamie
No, I don't remember exactly.
Griffin. And then she married an Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So that would have been my great great grandmother.
Exactly.
Okay, so were you Seventh-day Adventist as a child?
Yeah.
So that was the only church or
The only
religion you
church he went to.
and the school that you went to was a Seventh-day Adventist school, right?
They went to school, yeah.
Do you remember the name of that school?
No, I never recall them having a name
Well,
for
I
it.
guess they just called it the,
Hawkins Hill School, that's all they call it.
and then it became Bahamas Academy when it moved, right?
When they moved, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember having prayers in your home on a regular basis? Did you all have worship daily?
Yes, my mother especially. Because sometimes Daddy would leave early in the morning. And Mother would be the one to call us together for worship. Morning and evening.
Wow. Yeah, Grammy was a godly woman. I could honestly say she always held on to her faith in God. What were your circumstances like regarding I guess your ability to have the things that you needed? Was there any situations where you didn't have food or clothes or anything like that?
We wasn't rich. We didn't starve. But we always had something to eat.
Thank God.
We had a little amount of clothes. I remember my mother used to have a patch the back of our pants. We sit down on the clothes. Wear. There'd be a patch of clothes. Now that I have more than I can take care of.
To God be the glory.
Yeah.
It's amazing sometimes when you look back to where you came from.
Yeah.
God has truly been good.
Yeah, but I remember Sabbath mornings we get ready. And before I had my bicycle, I used to walk to church. Because in those days there wasn't much transportation.
Right.
And you did not ask anybody for a ride in their car. So we used to walk. Even coming from school, I walk home. And then the students would try to pick at marks. Like sometimes you say something about your mom and you want to stand back to fight. I try to get out of the way and go home.
So did Uncle Max fight?
Not fight, but you stop and row with them.
Yeah, he seemed to have been the most colorful of the 6 children. So do you remember much about Mommy going into nursing? You was here then? You weren't here?
I don't think so, no.
You missed a lot in those 10 years.
I left Jamaica. I left the Bahamas in 1949. And I never came back until 60.
Wow. So you miss out a lot.
There's a lot of things,
Yeah. So nobody from Nassau ever came to Jamaica to visit you? I mean, of your siblings or close family?
No one never came.
Oh, it was funny.
So Pa Henry was your grandfather. That was Hastings Harold's father.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you do any cooking? Did Grammy ever teach you all about baking or cooking?
No, not that I recall.
So she did all the cooking then?
Mother? Yeah. No, but I used to do on Sabbath. Sometimes I would prepare a potato salad for Sabbath.
What about chores? Did you all have chores or?
Okay, I used to scrub the floor. Toast water, clean the yard,
Right.
wash my clothes.
Can you describe the house that you lived in? I wish I had a picture of that house. What color was it?
Well, because the house was not completed outside, the one coat of stucco was on it. And now it's painted.
I thought it was green, no?
It was aqua green.
Okay.
If they tried to paint it, but it wasn't completed like he said on the outside.
Now,
So
inside, there was minus 10.
inside was painted.
and the flowers vanished.
The flowers vanished.
Uh-huh.
As you walked in, what did you see?
There's a big round table.
Right, had a big mahogany table
Right as you walked in the door.
in
And
the middle of the house, dining room table.
Then over at the western corner there was
We call it
A
a
place
window,
maybe-
window seat.
they could sit
Mhm.
or you could sleep on it in the night.
Yeah. You
And
put cushions in that, but you could raise it up and put things down inside to keep it.
were there windows?
One
Yeah.
window, two windows,
Two windows,
one to the front and one on the
western side.
and the side door. Grandma used to like to sit in the side door and read.
Mm-hmm.
And Huey's tamarind tree was right out a few feet from that door.
So there was a door leading out to the yard in the back?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I never really realized
And-
that.
And to the back, near the top of the tree, I had a cherry tree.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They name all the fruit trees after all the grandchildren.
Okay, so that was your cherry tree.
Yeah.
Me and Herbert had a cherry tree. Huey had a
Tamarind tree.
tamarind tree. Grandma had a tamarind tree too. And in the back, and Macy had a cherry tree. But most of the family, Grandma named the different trees after different children.
Okay.
So, it was like that.
Okay, and there was no running water, right?
No,
No, that didn't come till later.
Okay, but you had electricity.
Till about the 50-something, 54, 56. But we had electricity.
What was politics like around that time? Who were the politicians of the day?
The UBP was in the government. And I thought they governed well.
Were you interested in the UBP at the time or in politics at all, Uncle Lester?
no,
Did you pay attention to what was going on politically?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
But when I used to work at the Tribune, I got a little upset with the politics.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let me get out of the Tribune, and I left
Okay.
and went to John Bull.
Was there a lot of prejudice going on at the time?
Yeah. Because some colored people couldn't have a certain job. In the bank,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't see any colored tellers there.
Did you yourself experience any overt prejudice? Like anybody ever mistreated you because of your color?
No, never.
But it's just that you knew that there were certain jobs you couldn't have.
Yeah.
Well, that was the cry of most people in those days. So, like Aunt Rosie and Uncle Huey have attested to, and my mother as well, you never really experienced overt prejudice, and many of your friends were Caucasian. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, see, like this, when I was at John Bull, they had a bookkeeper who was Conky Joe.
Mm-hmm.
He decided he wanted to go to Africa to live with some of his friends. But I used to help him with the night deposit. And so when he was leaving, I understood, and Mr. Hayes was looking for somebody to do the bookway. He told them that I could do it. But no one ever asked me. And I didn't have any urge to want it because of an advantage, and they'd want me to work on Sabbath.
Right.
So I never pursued it.
Mm-hmm.
But it came a time when I believe someone was trying to stop me from getting it if they thought I would get it.
Mm-hmm.
That they came and accused me of not putting in his sale. This gentleman had made a sale, and the company, I believe, had decided not to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have to write a credit against a debit. And he accused me. He came down to where I was assisting a lady with some invoices from Mrs. Hazelwood, saying that I didn't put his deposit in. Now, if I send you something on credit and you don't pay cash yet, I can't put that in deposit.
No.
The bank would ask me if I'm a fool.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe this person was trying to block me from getting a job, trying to say I didn't what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, experiences, I tell you. So
Well,
you.
that ended up into something I should not have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because instead of him turning and walking away, he grabbed my shirt as if he got me under arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him about 6 or 7 times, let me go. And he wouldn't. So he was mad and I was getting mad now. And I lose my patience. I punch him.
Oh, wow.
And so for that now, for the last 21 years, he's trying to get me.
So, John Bull, you were there for many years, weren't you?
I was there for about almost 30 years.
Okay. All right. And you retired from there.
I retired from there.
Excellent. Yeah, most people I know you from working at John Bull.
I went to the food store now. I be in there, a man or woman would come to me and ask me if I remember them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you had your own business after that.
Huh?
You had your own business after that.
No, in between that, while I was doing that,
Mm-hmm. What type of business was that?
that was a janitor thing. I used to shampoo carpet.
Okay.
Shell, remember?
Mhm.
I had
Oh,
Shell.
yes,
I
yeah.
had Shell for several years.
Shell Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the lawyers' offices.
Yeah, McKinney on the top of hospital land.
Right.
You were married. You are married, right?
Yeah,
What is your wife's name?
Violet
Violet. What was her maiden name?
Smith.
And how many years have?
I was 35 when I got married. 35. I didn't get married over 50 years.
35, and you are now 90.
96.
Yeah, it's been more than
You've
60.
been married 61 years?
How about that, yeah?
Yeah, 61 years.
Wow, to the same woman. That in itself is a feat. Especially nowadays. Yeah. To God be the glory.
Yeah.
And I understand you play the piano.
Yeah.
When did you learn to do that?
Well, I began before I went to school in 49.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Sister Vera Hanfield play, and I asked her to teach me, and she said she would, but it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I never gave up. The first 2 notes on the keyboard I could point at any time was C and F. But eventually, by boarding bits of music, I learned all the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to Jamaica, I was just barely able to read music. But I kept fumbling around. We had a guy come from down what's the place name now? Panama.
Mm-hmm.
Fernando Facey. He was like a whistle on the keyboard. And I would ask him, man, show me how you do that. And he said, oh, you know how to do it, go ahead. And when he comes to me playing, he said, yeah, I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Then I kept trying and trying until I used to play in Sabbath school,
Mm-hmm.
in the chapel. And from there on, I kept on practicing until I came home.
Mm-hmm.
I still play when I go to church.
What would you say your advice to young people would be today?
Submit your life to Christ. Study His Word. And plead for the Holy Spirit to be your guide.
That is the most, I mean, there's nothing more to say, is it?
Yeah.
We must be ready each day
Yes.
living for Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know what day can be our last.
Mm-hmm.
So once you're living for Him every day, it doesn't matter. Man, another thing I come to find out, man only can kill the body, but he can't touch your soul.
Amen.
The soul is your
Amen.
black box. And I got everything you did, God can take care of that.
Yes.
So now, though, if you learn for Christ, He can kill you. Yeah. Sad to see you go, but God will take care of you when He raises you up again the second time.
Yes, He will. Thank you, Jesus.
And so I pray for all my siblings all the time, all of you. Ask God to make us faithful and true.
Yes, and we pray for you as well.
I do the same.